Hi, everybody. Welcome. We are going to go ahead and get started. So thank you, everybody, for coming again to our Transformation TXWES event. We are super excited to have you here during Alumni Reunion Week, even though it is virtual. Our reunion week is sponsored by Moritz Dealership, so thank you so much for that. If everybody could, that's coming on, go ahead and put your name and class year in the chat, and if you could also select all panelists and attendees in the drop down so that everybody can see you chatting, that would be great. We want to make sure that your classmates see who's here. And that, there you go. Hi, Stan. Great. And then if you have any questions, we are going to ask questions at the end of the event. If you have any, go ahead and pop those in the Q&A and we'll get to those. We'll get to some of those at the end. And if you do hear some background noise, I'm in the admin building and we have the musical, which is going to be on the mall, and they are practicing right now. So if you hear that, I'm going to stay on mute most of the time, but if you hear that, that's what that is. It's going to be really fun. If you haven't registered already, make sure you do that if you're in town. Great, we saw people coming on. Make sure that you chat your name and grad year, and also that you have chosen all panelists and attendees so that everybody can see who is chatting. And you can also talk to your classmates that way. If you see anybody you know. Awesome. Hi, Amy. And some of these people, we just got off a decade mixer. It was really fun. We had the 1960s tonight and then the 1990s tonight. So tomorrow we have the 1970s decade mixer and then also the 2000s mixer. So you can find those links at texwes.edu/reunion and you can join those tomorrow. Awesome. Hi, Susan. Thanks for joining us. Again, make sure that you're chatting all panelists and attendees so that I am not the only one who sees all of these fun chats that are coming in. So, awesome. Hi, Joyce. Thanks for coming. Hi, Penny. Penny, make sure you change your chat to all panelists and attendees so that we can all see who's chatting. Okay, we'll wait about another minute and then we'll get started. Q&A, we're going to use the Q&A feature. So if you also want to click on the Q&A feature, if you have any questions, we will be answering some of those at the end of the event. Also, make sure that you're choosing all panelists and attendees. Joyce, your hand is raised. I'm not sure why. But make sure you're chatting to all panelists and attendees and chat your name and class year. Yes, Penny, that's perfect. Awesome. All right, so we will go ahead and get started. I just want to introduce, hi, Sarge, President Slabach. President Frederick G. Slabach has served as the 20th president of Texas Wesleyan University since 2011. During his tenure, the university has reached new heights in all areas, including academic excellence, the student experience, and the revitalization of the campus in its historic neighborhood. These strategic initiatives were part of the university's 2020 vision, a strategic plan to make Texas Wesleyan a leader in innovative education in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. President Slabach and leaders from across the campus are currently developing the latest plan to guide Texas Wesleyan into its newest era. And we're going to talk about a little bit of that tonight. And he's going to talk about the success that we've seen during the 2020 Vision strategic plan. So if you would like, you can help us welcome President Slabach in the chat.
Thanks, Christian. I appreciate everybody being here. I noticed that we have at least 4 members of our Board of Trustees who put their names in the chat and indicated they were here. Thank you all very much. I know we've got a lot of President's Advisory Board members, Alumni Board, alumni. We're just so excited to see all of you here. I'm joining you from my office in the O'Neill Sells building on the beautiful Texas Wesleyan campus. And I also can hear the musical being practiced in the background, so hopefully that won't distract too much. While we would prefer that all of you were here on campus with us to celebrate the Alumni Reunion weekend, we're delighted that we have the ability to host our first ever Texas Wesleyan Virtual Alumni Reunion Week. We're all the more excited to host this week after having to make the difficult decision to cancel or postpone many of our in-person events over the last year, including last year's 2020 Alumni Reunion Weekend. We really miss seeing all of you, and we're looking so forward to getting back on campus this fall and returning to hosting our fantastic in-person alumni events. And I want to give a special shout out to Christian and the alumni office and the entire advancement folks for putting together such wonderful events, even during the pandemic. Really great job to all of you. I also wanted to take this time to thank our Alumni Reunion Week sponsor, Moritz Dealerships. We're so grateful for their partnership and continued support of our university and alumni programs, and especially our students. Moritz has served as the presenting sponsor for the Wesleyan 5K run walk for many years. And since we could not host Wesleyan's Wesleyan 5K walk this year, the Moritz dealership generously offered to help sponsor this year's virtual Alumni Reunion Week. I want to say a big thank you to our friend and benefactor, John David Moritz, and the entire team at Moritz Dealerships. As you all know, we've really witnessed a lot of tremendous positive change on the Texas Wesleyan University campus and in the Polytechnic Heights neighborhood over the last several years. I'm so proud of our achievements and know that none of our accomplishments would have been possible without our Wesleyan alumni and friends' dedication and support. Like all of you, I believe strongly in Wesleyan's mission. And I know what the university means to our students, faculty, staff, and to our neighboring community. We remain committed to building a future as strong as our past and believe that the future is bright. So this evening, I thought we could take a walk through some of our accomplishments over the last decade and share with you our strategic direction and vision for the next 5 years. So if we could take a look at, yes. So back in 2011, the Board of Trustees approved a 10-year strategic plan. It's called Vision 2020. And the overarching goals were to work toward 5 things. First, achieving high-quality academic programs. Second, recruiting motivated students to become leaders. Third, creating a high-quality, vibrant campus environment. Fourth, supporting academic excellence and affordability. And fifth, establishing Texas Wesleyan as a leader in higher education. We put together a few PowerPoint slides to give you just an overview of some of our successes under that Vision 2020 strategic plan. So this slide just gives you an overview of some of the major accomplishments we've had on the academic side of the university. All the new undergraduate programs, the online BBA, the online Bachelor of Fine Arts for Theater, Bachelor of Science in Health Science, the BAAS and Interdisciplinary Studies. There are more than we can mention, and actually more than are on this slide, but just give you an idea of all the activity that our faculty have been engaged in over the last 10 years. I'll draw your attention especially to the graduate programs because we've seen significant expansion in programs that are specifically designed for working adults. Many of these programs are taught online, which is what most working adults strongly prefer because of their work-life balance issues that they're dealing with. But some of them are face-to-face. So for example, our Doctor of Nurse Anesthesia practice, the Doctor of Nursing practice is actually an online sort of hybrid program. These are all extremely important, and you'll notice that many of the new programs at the graduate level are in the health sciences. And in fact, since 10 years ago when we started this program, we've actually created a new school, the School of Health Sciences. And we continue to look for opportunities to provide more graduate health professions, courses, and degrees here at Texas Wesleyan. The next one, please. So enrollment. It's hard to believe, but back in the fall of 2011, when we first kicked off our 10-year strategic plan, the 2020 strategic plan, we only had 168 new first-year students who matriculated that fall, in the fall of 2011. In the fall of 2019, we had 328 students, almost doubling the number of students in our first-year class. Now, in 2019, we did take a dip because of the pandemic, which we anticipated and budgeted for. But even with that dip, we had 261 students in the fall of 2020 compared to only 168 freshman students in the fall of 2011. We've also increased the diversity of our student population. Back in 2011, 43% of our undergraduate students were members of minority ethnic groups. And in 2019, 58% of our undergraduate students were members of minority ethnic groups. And that grew slightly to 59% this past fall in 2020. Perhaps one of the biggest changes that has taken place in terms of the vibrancy of the campus has been the dramatic increase in the number of students living on campus. Back in the fall of 2011, we had 358 students in the residence halls. Now, we had capacity for 500, but we only had 358 students living in the dormitories. So we made a concerted effort to encourage more students to live on campus. And in the fall of 2019, we actually exceeded our bed capacity and had 523 students in the residence halls, which means that we had to triple some of the rooms that were designed as doubles. And it was a really wonderful experience. And you can tell the difference in terms of the student organizations and the activities that are taking place on campus because of that significant increase. Now, in the fall of 2020, we did, if you can go back just one, Kristen, sorry. In the fall of 2020, we did consciously make the decision because of COVID to limit occupancy to one person per dorm room instead of doubles. And so we did reduce our on-campus living to 385. But for this coming fall, we've seen demand is very high to return to normal occupancy in the dorms. Okay, next. So this has to do with affordability. We know we have an extraordinarily fine academic quality here in our courses on campus. But what we want to do is to make sure that we remain affordable. And so these are our 16 private university competitors. And you see we're firmly in the middle in terms of our tuition. And even that is a little misleading because that $33,000 tuition and fees, that is actually just what is the sticker price, if you want. We give significant scholarships so that the average net tuition after scholarship aid, the average net tuition for the students at Texas Wesleyan in the undergraduate program is $13,400. So we are extraordinarily affordable because we are able to provide so many scholarships for our students. Next slide. One of the areas is financial sustainability. And of course, what a lot of universities are concerned about is the amount of debt that they have. And you can see this is a chart that simply shows what our total debt, the total debt is in the yellow gold bar. The total debt back in 2011 was $17 million. Our total debt today is just a little over $10 million. And just to put that into context, we actually changed our banking relationship about 3 years ago to BBVA Compass, which is a national, actually international bank. And they have significant clientele in the private higher education space. And when we were working with them to begin our relationship, they told us that we had the best balance sheet of any small private university with whom they work. And so that was really saying something, to be able to come from that kind of an organization, to be able to tell us that we had the absolute best financial balance sheet that they had among their customer base. Next slide. So obviously a very important part of financial sustainability has to do with fundraising. And we've had a lot of really wonderful successes. All of you have been very involved in our fundraising successes, and we would not have been able to achieve it without your help. Of course, we had a number of projects, but I'll just mention a few. The Rosedale Renaissance, which of course developed the new entryway, the clock tower, and the bishop's office of the Central Texas Conference of the United Methodist Church across the street, the art gallery, and so many more things. That was a $6.5 million fundraising effort back in 2013-15. And then, of course, the Martin University Center was an effort that went from 2015 to 18, raised $20 million in order to build the new student center. Annual giving is up to a little over $670,000 in 2020. That compares to 2011, when we had just a little over $300,000 per year in annual giving. And that's an extraordinarily important part of what we do here at the university. And of course, our endowment has almost doubled from 30 million in 2011 to almost 60 million today. The campus enhancements is something that I think is probably the most visible. In fact, when I speak at civic clubs all around North Texas, what I typically do is just take a lot of pictures of before and after on the campus. I can talk for about 30 minutes about all the things that we've done here on the campus. I won't. I'm just going to give you 4 pictures that you see here just as an example of the kinds of campus enhancements. In the upper left-hand corner, of course, those are the boarded up storefronts across the street on Rosedale, just at the south end of the campus. That was before the revitalization effort. And the picture in the upper right-hand corner is a picture after all the renovations. We were recently showing some of these pictures to one of the executives of one of the major foundations here in Fort Worth, just to give him an update on where we are. And he looked at it. He's a lifelong Fort Worth resident. And he looked at that and he said, you know, you all have done such a great job out there. I actually forgot how it used to look back before you all were able to make all of these great changes. So that's quite a compliment. And then, of course, the lower left-hand corner shows some of the pictures of the Rosedale Renaissance, the clock tower, and then in the background there is the Central Texas Conference of the United Methodist Church. And of course, everyone, I hope by now, is familiar with our Martin University Center. We knew that it was going to be extraordinarily important to the campus when we built it, but we had no idea how important. When COVID hit and we needed to find larger spaces to have our in-person classes so that we could be socially distanced, we would not have been able to do that if it had not been for the ballrooms in the Martin University Center. So it's been extraordinary. And there are, as I say, there's 30 minutes worth more of things that we could talk about, but I know most of you know them. You've been onto the campus, and as soon as we're back to normal, we'll invite you back to look at it again. We also wanted to make sure that we were recognized as a leader in higher education. And so I just want to mention a few things, sort of external validations. We know that we are a leader. But it's important that we be recognized as such, so the community sees it, that parents and their children who are planning on where they want to go to college will recognize it. So just, of course, I think all of you know that smaller, smarter branding is since we began our 2020 Vision campaign. And I have to say that it's been one of the most successful small private college branding efforts in the entire country. And our marketing team has won literally dozens and dozens of awards for the smaller, smarter. It encapsulates who we are. It's not just a slogan, it's really who we are. We've also been recognized because of so many partnerships that we have. When Fort Worth ISD began looking for a university partner to manage 5 of its underperforming campuses in Fort Worth, they turned to us because of the reputation of our School of Education and because of the reputation of the university writ large. And so we now manage, through the Leadership Academy Network, we manage 5 campuses that were formerly underperforming, and they've seen significant improvement through the joint efforts of the Fort Worth ISD and Texas Wesleyan University. We also have a number of partnerships with Tarrant County College. They reach out to us when they have initiatives that they would like to undertake, because they know, number one, that we have high quality, but that we're also nimble. And we're open to being working in the community, and that we're not just an ivory tower focused inwardly on ourselves, but that we really care about engaging with the community. So one of the programs that we have, of course, is a dual enrollment program with Dunbar High School, just to the east of us over near Stop 6. And those students who attend their dual enrollment courses are earning not only high school credits, but college credits. And in their senior year, they actually take some of those college credit courses here on our campus. The rankings, of course, are really important. University presidents love to brag about their rankings. I'm no different. So for 11 years in a row, Texas Wesleyan University was ranked in the #1 tier of regional universities by U.S. News and World Report. And a couple of years ago, we actually got a promotion. They now rank us not among regional universities, but they now rank us among national universities. So that's quite an acknowledgement by U.S. News and World Report of what we're doing here at Texas Wesleyan. We also are ranked very highly in two specialized areas within the U.S. News and World Report ranking. For the second year in a row, we ranked among national universities in the best college ranking by U.S. News and World Report for best business programs. We are ranked among national universities as having one of the best business programs in the country. We're also ranked as one of the best on the social mobility category, which ranks schools based on how successful they are at enrolling and graduating large numbers of students eligible for Pell Grants. And so we've been recognized by them for 2 years in a row in those two categories. We also, of course, get a lot of recognition for our nursing program. The Nursing Schools Almanac, which is an organization, it's referred to as NSA, the Nursing Schools Almanac, has taken notice of the quality of our nursing program, ranking Texas Wesleyan in the top tier in its 2020 list of best nursing schools in the country. The Nursing Schools Almanac, the NSA, collected data from more than 3,000 universities across the United States, and only 20% made the list. So we're in quite elite company when it comes to our nursing programs at the graduate level. We've also, I feel a little funny saying this, but how schools reacted to COVID-19 really mattered in terms of the quality of the education that they were able to continue to provide for their students. And Texas Wesleyan University is among the top performing schools in the country with respect to its reaction to COVID-19, according to a ranking by Educate to Career, which is a California-based education nonprofit. And again, I think we can take a look at the other schools that got into the top tier in Texas and see that we're in some pretty good company. The other schools in Texas in that top tier are Texas Tech University, the University of Texas, Austin, the University of North Texas, and Dallas Baptist University. Those are the only schools in Texas that are in the top tier, and we're in there with quite elite company. Also mentioned sports. We have fabulous sports programs, and over the last 10 years, we've actually added a number of sports programs. Men's and women's cross country and track were added in 2010. Women's tennis was added in 2014. Men's tennis was added in 2016 with its first season being played in 2017. Football was first approved in 2016, and our first season was in 2017. And then men's and women's wrestling began in 2019. And as you all know, we have just some phenomenal teams, and we routinely win the conference in various sports and go on to national championships. We, of course, had 2 national golf championships. We've had 2 national basketball championships. Our wrestling program won the conference this year, and they just started in 2019. So we're very excited about all of our athletic programs. And what we're most excited about is the fact that the coaches really do focus on the student in student athlete. And so we routinely also win awards for academic athletics as achieving the highest grade point average among the various teams. The next slide, if you could. So as the 2020 Vision Strategic Plan came to an end after its 10-year run, the university spent more than a year working on our next strategic plan. And in January of 2021, January of this year, the Board of Trustees approved our new 5-year strategic plan, and we call it Engage 2025. If you go ahead and get to the next slide, there we go. So we basically combined a lot of goals into 3 message pillars, 3 basic goal pillars. The first is engaging in learning. The second is engaging in community. And the third is engaging in leadership. And so in learning, of course, and you've heard me say this probably until you're sick of hearing me, but the most important thing we do is not necessarily to teach the content of the discipline, but to teach critical thinking, analytical reasoning, and creative problem solving. Because if we do that, then our students are going to be lifelong learners. They're going to be able to learn how to learn for the rest of their lives. But we also are focusing on student support, development, and retention. And we're focusing on making sure that we have the kinds of facilities and technology enhancements that are necessary to really provide a top-notch learning environment. With respect to the community, we're going to remain focused on community investment and economic revitalization of our part of Southeast Fort Worth. We want to engage in more corporate partnerships and career development for our students in terms of career services. And we want to engage more with students and alumni. And we have a lot of ideas about how we're going to be able to do that even more than we already do. The third, engage in leadership. This is probably the broad area that was not directly reflected in the Vision 2020 that was passing reference to it. It is a major focus of what we hope to do over the next 5 years. It's both leadership, developing leadership in our students, but also developing, being a leader in our community. The three things that are here really focus on the developing our students into leaders. We want to focus more on experiential learning and internships. We want to focus more on meaningful mentorship opportunities. And of course, because we know that athletics can develop strong leaders through its emphasis on teamwork, we want to support strong athletic programs. And we are currently working to develop specific measurable objectives, key performance indicators for each of these goals. We want to increase enrollment and promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. We want to increase retention and graduation rates. We want to expand career and job placement services. We want to connect the community and the alumni, and we want to strengthen our financial stability. And we are developing key performance indicators in each of those areas so that we can be held accountable. We will know whether or not we're doing. And of course, you've all heard the old saying, if it's not measured, it's not done. And so we want to set measures for ourselves to make sure that we are accomplishing the goals that we set out. So in addition to a new strategic plan, the university has several new capital projects underway. The first is the Simulation Center expansion project in the graduate program of nurse anesthesia, the GPNA renovations. In the fall of 2019, our nurse anesthesia program implemented a new Doctor of Nurse Anesthesia practice, the DNAP program, and that converted our program from a entry-level master's degree to an entry-level doctoral degree, from a 2-year program to a 3-year program. And while we still have the same number of students who enter the program each year, we will now have 300 students on campus using our simulation lab instead of 200 students using the simulation lab. And so we needed to expand the simulation lab. So we launched a $2 million fundraising campaign to convert the existing 2-room simulation lab into a 3-room simulation center with dedicated faculty observation areas that would allow for expansion of our GPNA building's capacity to really be able to handle the number of students that we have in that building. And to date, we've raised all but $40,000. We've raised $1,960,000 some odd $1,000. We're 98% of the way to the project goal. And if I wanted to be cute, I would say that we're all going to lock the doors and keep you in this Zoom until we've raised that last $40,000. But we won't. We know that many of you have already participated, and hopefully those of you who haven't will take a look at this and see if we might be able to complete this. But we are planning to start construction this summer with a completion date in August of 2021, just in time for the fall classes to start. The next slide, Christian. So I wanted to mention 2 of the upcoming campus improvement projects that include campus housing and the construction of a new athletic stadium. So, oops, Okay. Well, if you want to go ahead and go to the next one, because it actually shows where they are.
Or it's frozen. Give me 1 second.
All right. Well, so if while Kristen's working on unfreezing it, let me just tell you that through a private partnership agreement with Bryant Commercial and Miami USA Texas, the university is going to add a 100-bed campus apartments. There it is. That's the picture on the right hand, the lower right hand corner. That'll be on Rosedale Street, and it will consist of 41 two-bedroom units and 18 single-bedroom units for a total of 100 beds. Apartment complex there. The new campus apartments are located on the corner of Rosedale and Collard Street, directly across East Rosedale from the Poly United Methodist Church sanctuary. Another one of our highest priorities is constructing a new stadium on campus. An athletic stadium would provide a facility for football practices and games, expand the track and field program, and be an alternate site for soccer, as well as being a venue for Fort Worth ISD games and campus-wide events. So it's a really multi-use facility that will benefit several of our sports, and it will bring individuals to our neighborhood in order to drive economic revitalization. And that's, I think, as important a part of the stadium as the service of the sports programs themselves. We know that when we have large crowds coming to our football games and other athletic events, and when Fort Worth ISD has soccer events and football games out here, a lot of people come to the community. And while they're here, they eat at restaurants, they shop at stores. And so this is going to be a huge improvement in terms of economic revitalization for the Poly neighborhood. That particular project is going to be done in 3 phases. The first phase will be just the practice field itself, which will entail artificial turf and some lighting. And then the second phase is going to be adding a track and some track equipment. And then the third will be the grandstands, press box, field house, restrooms, scoreboard, and that kind of thing. So just to give you an idea of where these 2 new facilities will be located, you see in the center of the screen, the red circle, that's the Martin University Center, so you can kind of orient yourself. And just below that is the new entryway in the clock tower. And the street running across there is Rosedale. So that sort of orange-yellow area to the right and to the bottom of the page is student housing site. That's the new apartments. That's where that will be constructed. And then on the west side of the campus, the blue area is where the athletic practice field and stadium will be built. And that's on land that we already own. We will have to acquire 1 additional parcel, but we have all the land except for 1 small parcel that we are currently in negotiation for. So we have a lot to be proud of and excited about at Texas Wesleyan. But the thing that we're most proud of and the most excited about is our students. And at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Gabriella Maxey, a senior psychology major and Alumni Endowed Scholarship recipient. Gabriella?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Gabriella Maxey, and I was born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas. I am a graduating senior studying psychology, and I'm also a 2020-2021 recipient of the Alumni Endowed Scholarship. My mother, Jeannie Maxey, she graduated from Texas Wesleyan University in 2001, and she was very eager to tag along with me to tour the campus in 2018. Walking around campus with her and listening to her relive her experience from her well-cherished time at school, I saw opportunities for me to not only walk the campus as a legacy, but to write my own Texas Wesleyan story. I have enjoyed the diversity of organizations and the multitude of opportunities that have been provided through student engagement. I was able to join Greek Life, where I held the executive position as new member orientation director of Alpha Zeta Delta. I fell in love with spiritual life, which is also known as chapel, and I thrived in programming and activities committee, better known as PAC, where I also held the officer position as treasurer. I just wanted to sincerely express my gratitude to the donors of Texas Wesleyan. Learning I was a recipient of the Alumni Scholarship was such a relief, and I had an instant feeling of a financial burden being lifted off of my back. I feel so honored to be a recipient of this scholarship and to be here today, given a chance to personally show my appreciation. This scholarship has impacted me by allowing me to focus more on my studies and also reduce my hours at work. Not only have I been able to pour more attention into my education, but I have also been able to stay involved in student organizations. I am so thankful for donors that are supporting my educational goals. Knowing I have someone supporting me has fueled my drive to continue pushing through this past challenging academic year. Thank you so much for your generosity and your financial support towards my education. After graduation, I aspire to attend UT Southwestern Medical Center and get a master's in clinical psychology, and then eventually achieve a PhD in clinical psychology with an emphasis in neuropsychology. To all of the Texas Wesleyan alumni and donors, I cannot thank you enough for all you have done for the university. The students here truly value your efforts in laying the foundation down for our educational achievements. We appreciate you all for paving the way for our academic success and achievements. Thank you.
Thanks, Gabriella. That was wonderful. A lot ahead of you. I'm so excited. Can't wait to see all those wonderful things happen for you. As you all can see, we've experienced tremendous accomplishments over the last decade, which I know wouldn't have been possible without you. And the most important accomplishment is that we're changing the world. We're changing the world by transforming lives one student at a time. And you can see that as a representative here with Gabriella, representing all of our students. Your support to us in so many ways through your financial donations, volunteerism, and advocacy for our beloved university and students is just absolutely critical to our success. So I want to let you know how much I personally appreciate you and thank you. You're an important part of our institution. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to address them at this time. I think that we actually had a few questions that came in prior to the event. And I'll while you all are thinking about questions that you may want to ask, I'll go ahead and walk through some of these. And I'm going to ask Christian to kind of help me keep track. I guess we're going to put them in the chat function or in the Q&A.
I can just kind of moderate them, and I'll also watch the chat for new questions. So one of the questions we got through email was, are you aware of any new businesses coming into the Poly area, such as restaurants or retail?
So just coincidentally, the last week, we've been talking with two different potential folks that might be coming into the neighborhood. It may not turn out, but they seem to be very serious. One is an artist collaborative that would like to move into some of the space that we have that's available over by Ben's Triple B. And they have muralists, painters, movie film folks. They have sculptors, all sorts of artists in a collaborative. And it would be, it's my understanding, it would be a combination of a gallery and a makerspace. And then we also connected to them is a separate group that would be interested in creating and starting a retail establishment. And I don't know anything about this kind of stuff, but it's apparently they sell crystals and tea, which apparently is a big deal, and it must be because I'm not aware of it. So it must be really cool. And I just don't know anything about it. But anyway, that may turn out. We continue to have people that express an interest. It slowed down a lot, as you can imagine, during the pandemic. But just recently, it started coming back again. So we continue to look for great partners to come in with us and help revitalize our neighborhood.
Great, thank you. Can you share about the decision made several years ago for Texas Wesleyan to remain in East Fort Worth?
Well, I'm probably treading on thin ice here because this is before my time, and I know that there are several people here on this call that actually have more information about this and actually were here at the time when all of this was happening. But suffice it to say that back in the early to mid 80s, the then president of the university had developed plans to move the university to the west side of Fort Worth on property that I believe had been donated to the university. And that became a very controversial decision, our plan. And over the course of a couple of years, the university campus and the entire community of Fort Worth sort of debated this, and the Board of Trustees ultimately decided to not move, to stay right here in Southeast Fort Worth and to recommit ourselves to the neighborhood. It was a difficult time for the neighborhood. There were a lot of economic stresses and demographic changes that were causing some loss in economic vitality. And the university decided to stay. And it was very soon thereafter that the university received the bequest from the James L. West estate that allowed us to build the West Library, which was sort of a signal to the community then that we were serious, we were going to stay. We invested millions of dollars in the development of a new library here in town. So I've heard lots of versions of how all that happened, and I'm sure the truth is in there somewhere. But I don't have all the details, so I can't give you a lot more than that.
Thank you. Our next question is, we've heard plans are being discussed to build a stadium for our football team. This person supports the football program, but has it truly advanced enough to financially support the construction and upkeep of a stadium? If so, is there a specific location? We already talked about that, but do we not need more funds for academic purposes?
Well, the answer is yes, that the football program has truly advanced, and it does financially support the university. So just in terms of their on-the-field performance, let me just say that early this last season, which of course was cut short because of COVID, early this last season, our football team beat Arizona Christian University, which ended up winning the conference and going on to the national championship. So we clearly have developed a lot of talent, and Coach Joe and his team are doing a great job there. But also just to say that the financial aspect of it, a lot of people have a misunderstanding that football costs the university money, that is a net loss center for the university. And while that may be true at certain Division I NCAA programs, where every single student on the roster has a full tuition and fee scholarship, tuition fees, room and board scholarship. That is not the case in the NAIA. In the NAIA, we are limited to 24 scholarships, and we have more than 120 students on the football roster. We can divide up those 24 scholarships any way we want and give a little scholarship to everyone, or however we want to do it. So the additional revenue, tuition revenue from those individuals who are coming to the university more than pay the way of the football program. But also, I think it's really important, as I mentioned when I was talking about the strategic plan, a football stadium on campus is more than just a facility for the various sports, football, soccer, track and field, that will use it. It is a meaningful way for us to engage students here on campus, and all the experts, all the data show that students who are as engaged with the campus outside of class as they are in class are much more likely to persist and graduate. And having a game on campus as opposed to halfway across the city is going to enhance student engagement and will actually have positive retention benefits. It's also an opportunity for us to welcome alumni back to the campus. And just as importantly, it will be an economic boost for the community because of all the Fort Worth ISD games that we've played here, all of our games that will be played here. People will come into the community and they will spend money.
Speaking of the stadium, Nisha is asking if there's any interest in getting blue colored turf. I'm a fan, I'm a Boise State alum, and it is super cool in person. So
we have not made that decision yet. I am not a fan of the Boise State field. It gives me a queasy feeling when I look at it on television, but we're probably not going to be televised. So that's probably not going to be an issue for us, at least not for a while. So no, we have not made any decisions about what color the turf would be. My personal preference would be that it would be the traditional green, but we have not made any decision about the color of the turf.
Okay, well, last question, I have a couple more. Are there plans to expand the medical fields at Texas Wesleyan to include a physician's assistant program?
So we do not have any plans to develop a physician assistant program. We are constantly looking for other programs within the health professions at the graduate level because we've had such success with the ones that we have in nursing. Physician assistant program is different, and you typically find them, not always, but typically find them in conjunction with medical schools because of the significantly increased amount of technology and equipment and things like that that are needed. The other part of the program, the other part of the equation, though, that we have to look at is whether or not there is a niche for Texas Wesleyan. Not every great program out there is one that would work at Texas Wesleyan. We have to take a look at the tuition rate, the competition at public universities versus private universities. And so we're constantly looking for other programs in the health professions. But the physician assistant program is not one that we currently have on our radar screen.
Great, thank you. Jim asked, what will be the criteria for which students to live in the new apartment facility on Rosedale?
So we are assuming that the biggest market for the apartments on Rosedale will be among our nurse anesthesia program students. Every year we have 100 students that start anew, and of course now we're going to have a total of 300 at any given time. And the vast majority of those students move to Fort Worth from outside of the metropolitan area. And so they are looking for an apartment, and most of them would prefer to have one that is close to the campus and the program. We are going to require that all of our freshman students live in the dorms on the north side of the campus, where the cafeteria is and those kinds of things, because we really want to be able to have them in that kind of quasi-communal environment for their first year. And in fact, we're considering requiring first and second year students to live on campus. But other than that, it's really just a first come, first serve kind of opportunity for the students who may want to live in the apartments. The apartments will be a little more expensive than our dormitories, as you can imagine. And so part of that will be also driven. I think that's what will drive so many of the nurse anesthesia program students there. They've all been out working for years as registered nurses. And so they and their families would, not only have the expectation that they would live in an apartment rather than a dorm, but also would have the financial ability to do so.
Susan Coltis asked about possibly a clinical research program when we were talking about new programs.
I'm sorry, say again.
Susan Coltis asked about possibly a clinical research program. We were talking about additional programs earlier.
Susan, I'd be happy to talk to you about what kind of clinical research program that you're talking about. The problem with clinical research is funding. And so you probably better than I would be able to talk to us about what kinds of funding sources might be available for clinical research, because that's not an area that we've been doing anything. And so we would need to learn about how to do that.
Okay, next question. Are we looking to expand college and career readiness school model partnerships to other school districts, such as the one we currently have with Mansfield ISD?
So we do have one with Mansfield ISD. We also have one, as I mentioned, with Dunbar High School, and there are different types. The biggest issue there is with funding. For most of the public schools, obviously, the students are not able to afford Texas Wesleyan tuition, and the school districts themselves typically cannot afford to provide that. The Mansfield situation has very targeted courses that are related, if I'm thinking of the one you are, about targeted to the School of Education. And it's not a general program. It's just very specific courses that are offered from our School of Education. And so it's minimal in terms of cost outlay. The Dunbar program that has a dual enrollment for 2 full years is actually one that is funded by some major federal grants that Fort Worth ISD and Texas Wesleyan participated in. So a big key to that kind of collaboration with public high schools is to be able to find the funding to be able to do it. But yes, we are open to providing more opportunities like that.
Jim would like to know if I am currently sitting at the top of the conference center for the Zoom event, or if this background is just a picture. Jim, you too can have this picture. I can even walk you through putting it on your Zoom. I think that's all I see right now. Does anybody else have any other questions for President Slabach? Kamal would like to ask how often the university uses the assistance of our notable alums to raise funds.
Well, we do that a lot. And the way we typically do it is, of course, through our board of trustees and through volunteers in the Alumni Association who might have, they might know individuals who they believe would like to get connected to the university. We have alums that are volunteering in many ways of helping us identify potential donors, developing relationships with those potential donors, and then actually working with the advancement office and the president to actually, in some cases, ask for funding from those individuals. So we would, if you are interested in the possibility of working with us to identify and develop potential donors for the university, we would be delighted to work with you. We do talk about our notable alums, if that's what you mean. We talk about them all the time and brag about them all the time.
All right. I don't see anything else right now. So I'm going to run back over to my PowerPoint really quick so I can show everyone what is next. We would like to thank President Slabach for being here and talking about the past 10 years. They've been extremely successful, and where we're going, where Texas Wesleyan is going. We're excited about the direction we're headed, and we're excited to have President Slabach with us for that. So we have obviously a very big week. It's only Tuesday, so we have a lot going on. Tomorrow we do have a music department concert. Then we do have a sports event on Thursday. And then on Friday night, we are having 2 professional comedians and a magician that you can watch from the comfort of your couch with your family. And then Saturday, we have an in-person and virtual musical option. So if you're interested, you can go online to TXWES.edu/reunion and get all of the links for all of our events for the rest of our virtual reunion week. Again, thank you to Moritz Dealerships. We are extremely grateful for their support for the reunion and the 5K. They are normally our 5K sponsor. If you have any questions about any of these events, please feel free to call our office, or if you need help getting on or would like friends to get on and they need help, let us know. And you can always follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We're very active on that, and you'll get to stay up to date with not only alumni news, but university news as well. So thank you so much again for coming. We loved, quote unquote, seeing everybody or listening or watching everybody chat about all of the fun things that Texas Wesleyan has to offer our students and our alums and our friends. So thanks again, and we hope everybody has a great night, and we hope to see you at other events this week.
Hi, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.